How close is this Illinois program to what you envisioned when you first got here?
You know, I'm excited. I think we've grown every year. But bottom line is each year is its own story, right? And I'm super excited. I think in the world of college football, we got 110 roster players, but 40 new guys. So there's just so much more turnover than has ever been done. So you kind of got to learn and get settled into. You got to take every year for what it is. But, you know, Josh Whitman and I, when we first got together, we started talking about sustainable success. And, you know, we hope this is another big step in that direction, because I do think Illinois is something that can kind of hold its place in college football for a while.
Describe the energy around here right now. I know season tickets sold out for the first time in 20 years, I think. Can you feel it when you walk into practice every day? I know the old coach line is every year, you know, or cited every year. Does it feel different this year?
Well, I think our kids like the game, right? And they like to do the things the right way. We just celebrated our 5th straight semester of a 3.0 GPA, which I don't think happens by chance. It's very intentional by our crew. I think they also realize success off the field. A lot of things brings success on the field. So our guys like to play. They like to practice. Now I'm going to back off them tonight, so they're really going to be excited. But tomorrow's our first day in full pad, so it'll be a pretty gritty day tomorrow, and they'll embrace it. But yeah, you can feel it. I tell you what I love. I love being in a community. My wife and I, this summer when we could, we did a couple community events. We partnered with Josh one night at a fundraiser. They were hoping to get $250,000. They raised $500,000 for some charities here in the community. So just a really good buzz around everywhere, and hopefully we'll ride that as long as we can.
A lot of individual guys getting some, you know, preseason accolades too, especially your quarterback, who you're asked about all the time. What do you love most about Luke, and why is it important for him to be the guy leading this team on the field?
You know, I give Luke a lot of credit, because the things he's gathering now are things that he's worked for in the past. So he's a very intentional leader, not just what he does on the field, but he's really a very intentional person with relationships. He'll take someone to lunch. He'll grab somebody and go to dinner, right? He is very direct in what he does. He's also a big picture thinker, right? He's a guy that, as a quarterback, you got to be extremely oriented on the details of that play, but he gets the big picture, right? He had a comment the other day in a meeting where he talked about, and he spoke in front of the team, he basically said something to the effect of, right, the more you tell the outside world, you bring things to yourself that you may not want, right? So the less you talk to the outside world, the better your world can be, right? And I thought that was a really interesting perspective of how he kind of sees things. His humility is high.
I know you said you got 40 new guys to incorporate here, but you kept a lot of key pieces. What was your pitch? They could have gone to the NFL. In the day and age we're in now, they could have transferred somewhere else. What was your pitch to be a part of this year's Illini football
Well,
team?
to be honest, some of the guys, the message was, hey, here's where the NFL projects you. This is where I think you could go a year from now, right? And in the meanwhile, we can give you this, right? And sometimes it's simple math, right? Other times it's, you know, I would say there was kids that probably could have went to bigger paydays, and they realized that the ability to stay here with what we're building, the reward can come tenfold, right? You know, I tell our guys every day, I'm trying to teach you things so that next year when you're not with me, we can help you go have success, right? And that's not just something that's kind of said, it's definitely felt, and I think that makes a big difference.
Cliche to say that great teams are built on the lines. I mean, I know how much you love the line.
Yeah.
And this year, for this team, offensive and defensive, just to describe your group on the lines.
Yeah, I'm excited. You know, we returned 5 offensive linemen that 4 of them started the whole year, and the 5th really was a guy that started half the year. So super excited to have that much retention. And the offensive line is a unique animal, right? Unlike any place else, those 5 guys got to work together, right? In run game, pass game. That's why when you go in NFL and college locker rooms, you'll see the offensive line hanging out with the offensive line. They kind of don't hang with anybody else, and they protect people, right? That's what big people do. So super excited about our D-line. Obviously, Gabe Ackus is about as good as there is in college football. Also acquired a guy, James Thompson, who I think could be a really special player. Have a host of other guys that are going to play up front defensively. So, yeah, I believe the foundation of what you build is built up front, and these guys have been a big part of it.
I got a lot of use out of your quote at Big Ten Media Days talking about how NIL has changed and you paid a guy on PayPal and that kind of thing. That was great, by the way. Thanks for that quote. It was good in my sports.
I'm here to help you make it your job easier.
How do you think Illinois has adapted over the years? You've seen it. You've been here kind of when this all started and where you are now, yourself and the university personally, to kind of embrace this.
You know, I think at first, you know, you'd have these conversations about paying athletes and you'd get real quiet and you're like, we're going to give them this, and you'd, hey, we're not doing anything illegal. We're doing what is totally legal and what a lot of people are doing. So I think the biggest thing for us, the challenge that NIL brings, is to balance it all, right? And I would say overall, when the NIL world started, we kind of put our toes in and we didn't jump in. learned a lot through basketball, right? And then transitioned to where we are now. And this is the first time going into this year that we've kind of been empowered to be kind of somewhat close to our competition, and it feels really good.
I mentioned this when we first just met here, but it seems like kids in the St. Louis area are really starting to buy into what you've got going on here. How much a specific focus was that for you?
Yeah, it's big. We, we're very intentional on how we were going to recruit. I said from day one, for Illinois to be great, it's got to be on Illinois players, right? So with that being said, obviously parts of St. Louis touch into Missouri and Illinois, but we have two offensive starters from East St. Louis. The guys start right by each other. So two Illinois guys. JoJo Hayden, another guy from East St. Louis, is a very valuable role player for us. We just signed Carson Boyd, who has really been an impressive guy in fall camp. So we're bringing in some more. I know there's a couple I can't talk about, but we've really targeted that area. Thad Ward, my running back coach, my associate head coach, really does a good job of recruiting in there. We kind of treat that area as an in-state area and go after everybody that we can.
You mentioned Carson. Was going to ask about him. I saw him when he came back for Illini Day at Busch Stadium. I could already tell that he has bulked up from his high school days. What has impressed you most about him since he's been on campus?
Just him, man. He's, first, mom and dad raised a great kid, and when you go into a home visit, or that day they met us at the school, literally we're in his dad's office, and there must have been 20, 30 people in there, right? You got grandma and grandpas and uncles and cousins and brothers and sisters. But I also think that young man wants to represent them. He represents us, but I can tell you Carson Boyd, when he represents his family, he's represented in a way that, very, very few can find fault with. And then, he got up in front of the team the other day. We have a freshman talent show. And he got up and a cappella, without any assistance, sang a song. Now, I'm not saying it was a Grammy Award, but he sang it with confidence, and the whole place was rocking, so it was pretty cool to see.
You're a guy who, you get a microphone and you're going to speak your mind. Do you like mixing it up a little bit? I know there's been a couple things over the last year.
I get it. I really just try to, I always say this, right? The honesty is the best policy. I learned early on in life, right? If you always tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said. And I just kind of take that approach. I don't really say anything with the intent to, I'll jab a guy here and there. I get it. But I really, if somebody takes a shot at Illinois, I don't like that, right? It's, and in the greater big, I remember being a young coach in 2006. We won 10 games, and Lloyd Carr and Jim Tressel grabbed me at Big Ten Media Days. And they basically made reference hey, you're gonna be a voice of college football in the future, and when that moment comes, you got to represent us, right? And I think that time is kind of now, and I think college football is as good as it's ever been. It's a really exciting time. It's a really good environment. You're doing things we've never been able to do with the love of this conference. I know you're in the SEC area down there in St. Louis too, right? But really, Big Ten football and SEC football, what drives everything, and that is awesome in itself. I know we're always going to have our disagreements, but you talk about two traditional conferences that really represent the same thing. Their fan bases are very proud of their teams, and that's what makes this place great.
I know scheduling has, gotten a lot of talk lately. Is there a world where SEC and Big Ten, I don't even know how to phrase it correctly, but it seems like those are the two big powers. How do you come together to schedule and make good games for the fans without hamstringing you for later in the year when it might not matter? Yeah,
you know what? One of the moments that kind of rings true to me when I was here at Illinois is I went to the Missouri basketball game down in St. Louis two years ago, and I was just, I went to the game, right? But the environment around it, everywhere we went, you had Missouri and Illinois interacting, and it was just an awesome environment. So I know we're getting to that in football as well. But yeah, it's a world of, right now in college football, it's obviously you got the whole 9-game, 8-game thing between the two conferences, and then how are the other 3 or 4 games going to play out. There's also a lot of conversations about what's being played, when it's being played, right? Like the SEC will play a lot of FCS teams, like the 2 or 3, second or third last week of the season, to kind of have a breather, right? So there's a lot that goes into it, but the biggest thing is we just got to pay attention to where we're at and focus on that.
2 more for you.
Yeah.
What makes you such a Big Ten guy? Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois. Why is this just home for you? Why does the Big Ten, and you're such an ardent supporter, you seem like you're a great voice for it. Why is that? Well,
twofold. I was born at Illini Hospital, right? So I was born in a hospital that bears the name of where I work now, so that's probably a sign of where we were going. I grew up in the state of Illinois. I really love that, right? I grew up an Illinois fan, and obviously transitioned, went to Iowa as a walk-on, and had a great moment there in my life that helped make me who I am today. But the Big Ten is just I don't care where we go. You go to Indiana, you're going to Ohio State, you're going to Michigan or Michigan State. The fans, even though they wear different colors, they're a lot of times the same people, right?
Yeah.
Just really good, wholesome people who have a lot of pride in what they're doing. That probably makes our conference probably a little bit unique. I'm not saying I roast marshmallows and sing Kumbaya every night with everybody in our conference, but for the most part, I would say our group of 18 coaches all get along pretty good. Even the 4 new additions. I'd known Jed Fish for a long time. Didn't know Dan really until we went on a Nike trip together. I really have a huge respect for those 2 guys, especially know them very, very well. So Mike Loxley out in Maryland, even though he spent time here at Illinois, he and I met way before that and have become really good friends in the business. So it's a fun time to be in this conference overall.
Final thought. I know every coach does the cliche day by day.
Yeah.
That's the way it is, and that's the kind of mindset that gets you to where you want to be. Do you talk with your team about this is a program right now that has an opportunity to make the playoff?
Yeah.
It's there. It's right there for you. Is that something you verbalize out loud?
Well, everybody has that opportunity, right? It's what you do with your moments. But we kind of do. I appreciate what you're saying. It's not coach speak, it's success speak, I think. And, like yesterday was practice 4, right? So one of the last things I say when I meet with my guys pre-practice is I'm like, hey, we all got practice 4 today. What are you going to do? Because what you do affects what we do, right? And I think our guys understand that voyage, right? They understand that process, and it's part of the fun to be here and be a part of it. And I think our guys carry an edge that you're going to see come out every day.